All right, we're back again. So far, you would have flushed out your customer avatar canvas. You built your perfect customer avatar. You pulled out some really big ideas that are going to be the center of your advertising campaign. Then in the next section, you flushed out your offer attributes. These are brainstorming those TBIF offer attributes. And in the next section after that, I assign you to go and write some of your ads. Now it's time to pair your written ads with some creative. And with the creative, this could be in the format of video or image or carousels, and I'll show you a little bit more about that in a second. But the whole idea with your creative, this is how you visualize the big idea of your ad, and you want to make it super compelling. You want it to be attention grabbing, and ultimately this full package of amazing ad copy and amazing ad creative is going to ultimately convert more customers for your campaign. When you're thinking about ad creatives, ultimately you're trying to visualize the big idea or that angle or the transformation of your customer base. And you're going to do this through different formats. You could do it through video or graphics or images or visualizations or GIFs. And remember that each platform is going to allow for different formats. So you may be able to do ads with a single image or a carousel, which is very popular in e-commerce, and I highly recommend those. But it could also be video or reels or different feed formats. But in all instances, I want you to remember when you're producing creative for your ads, you want to be thinking about mobile. Most content is consumed on mobile in this day and age. So just remember that you're optimizing for mobile. Of course, when you produce any of your creative, you want to be on brand. This means being consistent with your voice, your color palette, your fonts, and your logos. Let's go take a look at some examples of how we're going to use ad creative to visualize the big idea of an ad. So you may remember that we were looking at some examples of ads by the company Cotton when we were talking about creating high converting ad copy. And you may remember that I didn't show you what the creative was. It was whited out. So now we are going to do the big reveal, and let's see what Cotton chose as its creative to visualize the big idea of the ad. Remember the ad on the left, the big idea was about investing in quality products with a purpose. And the ad on the right was about scarcely available best-selling comforter that was now available in 2 new hues. So are you ready for the big reveal to see what the creative is that Cotton chose to visualize these big ads? 3, 2, 1. There you go. Let's first take a look at the ad on the left. The big idea for this ad was investing in quality products with a purpose. While one may argue that this guy kind of has a purposeful look on his face, and they certainly are highlighting the benefit or the appeal of the Cotton items, I might argue that this creative may not be the most effective way to visualize the big idea in this ad. This ad was all about supporting the community in Egypt. And while it's possible that Cotton might have done different creative to test this same ad, for this type of ad, I might want to see the communities in Egypt that are actually being helped. And I think that there's a way to still make the cotton fabrics the highlight of that creative. With the ad on the right, if you remember, the angle and the big idea was that it's scarcely available best-selling comforter now in 2 new hues. I like this creative a lot more for this ad angle. To me, I always, when I'm thinking about lifestyle products, I ask myself, is it Pinterest worthy? Is it Instagram worthy? It certainly looks like a modern room. They're making cotton the hero of the story, and they have the 2 new hues that are available there in plain sight. And they have a really good tagline there, bring comfort home. If you obsess or appreciate comfort, you may immediately get the sense of comfort by looking at this image. So I think this one was a little bit better than the first one. Now let's take a look at some different ads. I want to show you a variety of ads that have really leaned into the offer attributes. So some of them are really heavy on transaction or brand or influence or function. Let's take a look at these right now. With our first example, this is a company called Cook Culture, and they sell knifeware and kitchen goods. And as you could see on the bottom of this page with these ads, I kind of labeled which offer attribute the ad is leading with. So with the Cook Culture example, if you could see at the very bottom there, it says transactional ad. So this ad was very focused on transactions. So you can see at the very top in the body copy, there's a couple of nice emojis. You want to use emojis a lot in your ads. Those are very effective. So it's just a couple check marks. It says satisfaction, money back guarantee, and lifetime workmanship guarantee. So these are both guarantees these are transactional attributes because they lower the risk of the customer and make them feel a lot more safe to buy. And next in this ad in the body copy, they have a functional piece to it. So it says a line of kitchen knives that are made to exacting standards using world-class materials at a very reasonable price. So they talked a lot about a function there. They did include some messaging about transaction by including very reasonable price. And for their creative, this is a product in use video. These are very, very effective ads. If you can show the process of how products are manufactured or showing the products and how they're used, both of those are very effective when thinking of creative. And towards the bottom of the ad, it says transactional because they're leading in their headline on a transactional attribute. It says save up to 20% when you bundle. So this is a very significant part about the ad. It's the headline and it's all transactional. With our next ad, this is a company called Jarbo who sells higher end women's wear. And with this ad example, you can see at the top, they're leading with brand. And what they've done is they've included a relevant narrative that speaks to their mission for the customer. So they say, you have great taste, brand narrative. Finding the right pieces to look good and be comfortable can be a daunting task. They're speaking to the pain point and the aspirational state of the customer with brand. At Jarbo, we strive for the perfect combination of style and comfort so you can look and feel your very best. And that there is a mission. So that is very much a brand attribute. Then if you look at the creative, they have a product image carousel. So it's showing multiple products within their catalog. And sometimes these are the most effective creatives you can use. A product image with a blank, plain, or white backdrop. And that you'd be surprised on how well those can convert. So you don't always need to get overcomplicated and overproduce your creative. It could be a simple product image with a blank background. And with their headline, they've gone with functional attributes to explain each of the products. So this is Cortina in a goose down. So very big on function there. This is very much a brand ad because they are leading with the brand attributes at the top. Looking at our next two ads here, the ad on the left is by Foldswear, and they make innovative apparel for health industry workers. And this ad is leaning heavily into influence. So you could see that they're opening with a customer testimonial. The product delivers incredible stretch, anti-wrinkle, and moisture wicking. I bought black this time and the gray will be my next one. And I've mentioned here that this is also a functional attribute because the influence is the customer testimonial in of itself, but they're using a testimonial that speaks to the function of the products. And with this creative, they're using product and use image. So they have a model just showing what the product looks like on. And in their headline, again, they've doubled down on influence and they have 5 stars beyond my expectations. And you'll notice there's not much about brand attributes in here. There's not much about transactional attributes in here, but this ad is still a very high performing ad. So you don't always need to include transaction and brand. You can mix and match. And later I'm going to be telling you about how you can test what is working, but you do want to try a variety of combinations within your ads. With the ad on the right, this is by a company called Camel ADV, and they sell aftermarket upgrades to your ADV. And this ad is leaning mostly on function. So they're basically just explaining what the product is. Now's your chance to get definitive protection for your T7 while you rip those trails. So it's talking about the use case, it's talking about the product and what it's upgrading. And for their creative, again, product in use. Are you getting a sense that product in use creative is working very well? Because these are all examples of high performing ads and a lot of them are using product in use. So you can see that there's somebody ADVing in a really rough terrain and they're kicking butt. So this is an example of a functional ad. And the takeaway that I want to leave you with so far in this section is that you don't need to be limited to trying just 1 or 2 things. You really do want to get creative and test different angles with different combinations of those 4 offer attributes. Because later I'm going to show you how you can test the different ads to see which ones are resonating with your audience the most. Let's take a look again at the worksheet that I included in this lesson. So you could see in the section where we're talking about the structure of the Facebook ads, there's a row at the very bottom. It's called creative. And in this section, you want to be listing out the different types of creative that you would test with each of these ad angles. When you go and launch ads, you might use one angle and test that against 3 to 5 different creatives. to see which combination of copy and creative is working the best. So what you could do is create a Google Drive or some other folder that's on the cloud and just put all of the different creative images that you would use for that angle and link it here in this bottom row. Now I want to show you a real world case study to show you how everything that we've been discussing in this lesson ties together and equates to some awesome results. Do you remember our old friends Black Hair, the t-shirt company that was having issues differentiating their products? Well, we're going to take a look at a case study to see how their entire campaign came together. Right now we're looking at their customer avatar canvas, and these are some of the big ideas that they pulled out that speaks to the customer's aspirational state. So big idea one was that these t-shirts are designed, printed, and made to order in our home studio in New Brunswick. Let us make your next favorite tee. The second ad angle was designed by nationally recognized artist Nick Chase, hand printed with a 4-step silk screening press with eco-friendly water-based inks. And the third big idea that they had was dad clothes aren't what they used to be. I guess they're a lot cooler now. And now we're looking at their offer attributes worksheet. And you'll remember this because in the offer attributes section, I showed you how we flushed out each of these rows. These were the transactional attributes where they had free shipping over 75 and 15% off first purchase. This was their brand attributes where they had 15 years of design background, created and printed in the home studio in New Brunswick. Then they had the influence attributes where we talked about how Nick Chase was an award-winning artist and we included some customer testimonials. And then you remember we flushed out the functional attributes where we talked about their buttery soft fabrics that hold the fit wash after wash. Watch after watch. Okay, I got this. We talked about their hand-printed process with the 4-step silk screening press and the eco-friendly water-based inks. So you'll remember that we flushed all these out. And now I'm going to show you how we took the big ideas from the customer avatar canvas and we paired them with the offer attributes that we flushed out to create some high converting ad copy that's paired with some high converting ad creative. This is a look at 4 ads that they created through this process that we are all discussing together. And what they did was put these ads together and launch them, and then they tested them against one another. And what happens when you launch an ad experiment like that is you right away, you start to learn which ones didn't go so well, which ones were okay. And most of the time, there's usually 1 or 2 that performed incredibly well, that were a big hit that led to lots of sales. So for the first ad on the left, you could see that we've incorporated the aspirational state of the customer. We included different offer attributes. We have ad creative that is a product in use photo that includes an influence attribute as well. It's a testimonial from a customer saying, I literally wear my black hair t-shirt every day. You could see in their headline of the ad, they have a transactional attribute. It says free shipping over $75 to Canada and to the US. The ad next to it, we went big on transactional attributes. It's a fall buy one, get one sale. And it says you can layer up those bulky sweaters with a super soft one-of-a-kind graphic tee. That's a big functional attribute. Canadian artist designed and hand printed in New Brunswick. That's a brand attribute. Explore our collection of premium original tees. That's a functional attribute with a call to action. And it says buy one, get one at 50% off site-wide with this code. Another transactional attribute there. The next ad over, it says Canadian artist designed. That's a brand attribute. Hand printed and made to order. That's another brand attribute. Then it says super soft with a flattering fit. That's a functional attribute. Then it says 5 days out of 7, it's a black hair tee. And that's a customer testimonial. So that's an influence attribute. They did 2 brand attributes, a functional attribute, and an influence attribute all in that little paragraph there. And in their headline, it says free shipping over $75 to Canada and the US. And for their creative, they showed how they manufacture these shirts. That's one of the things I said to them when we were working on this campaign. I said, do you have any video showing how you use the 4-step silkscreen press to make these t-shirts? They said, we absolutely do. And I said, you absolutely must include that as your creative for one of your ads. Spoiler alert, this ad was the one that led to the most sales, even though all 4 of these did quite well. And we're going to look at some results in a sec. But before we do, let's take a look at the last ad example. This is the one that was speaking about the dad clothes as the big idea. It says, dad clothes aren't what they used to be. That's a big idea, speaking of the aspirational state of a dad. Artist design, versatile, super soft, and made to fit well, functional attribute. See for yourself and take 15% off site-wide with this code FAVET. That is a transactional attribute, and that is a call to action. They finished the body copy by saying hand printed in our home studio in New Brunswick, Canada. That is a brand attribute. They're showing an image of the customer avatar. It's a dad wearing new dad clothes. They've filled the whole side of that image with customer testimonial after customer testimonial, all 5-star reviews. So lots of influence attributes there. And the headline below says 15% off with code FAVT. That is a transactional attribute. And they finish it with a newsfeed description that says hand printed in our home studio in New Brunswick, Canada. That's a brand attribute. So you could see with all of these ads, they all are centered around a big idea that's pulled from the customer avatar canvas. They're all flushed out with multiple offer attributes that amplify the big idea. They all include creative that allows you to visualize the big idea of that ad. So they launched all 4 ads at the same time. And that's what you do when you're trying to validating which combination of copy, creative, and audience is working the best. And they had some really fantastic results that I'm going to show you right now. So this is what happened when they launched their campaign. Historically, Black Hair was never able to do more than $1,000 to $3,000 a month in sales, and some months they weren't doing much. But as you can see, when we hit September, over a 2 to 3 week period, they jumped all the way to doing $30,000 of sales in 1 month. And I can tell you right now, after speaking with the owners at Black Hair, they were completely shocked. I got an email that said, Scott, I'm paradoxically scared and nervous and excited at the same time. I can't believe that this business is actually taking off the way that we had always dreamed of. So that was a pretty great case study to look at. And I really am trying to encourage you to do the same thing. You can fill out your customer avatar, you can flush out your offer attributes, you can create high converting ad copy with that information, and you can pair it with awesome creative that's going to help your customer visualize that big idea. Just remember, when you're creating your ad for campaign, it's not going to be identical when you create an ad for Instagram versus an ad you create for YouTube versus an ad you create for Pinterest. You really need to understand the ad format on the channel that you advertise on before you produce the creative. This is an example of ad formats that you're able to use when advertising on Snapchat. So this is a screenshot of the back end of Snapchat Ads Manager. And with a tool like Snapchat, it is really mobile centric. Often there's not a ton of copy. You can tell that there's not like body copy or newsfeed description or all those other fields that I was showing you in Facebook. So just make sure that when you select a platform that you're going to advertise on, you're using content that's native to that platform and that format. So this is an example of an ad that we created for Snapchat on the very far right. It's for a company that sells higher end jewelry, and it's antique jewelry. So they're leading with this functional attribute where it says you can shop from over 7,000 one-of-a-kind jewelry pieces. They show the products in use, and that's it. That's the extent of what we did for a Snapchat ad, which, as you can tell, was a lot different than some of those ads that we were creating for Facebook. And the great news is, when you create an ad that's native to the platform you're advertising on, and as long as it's done well and it makes sense for that platform, you can get amazing results there as well. This ad was one that we ran from January to June in 2021. It was a 6-month period. We probably put a couple $1,000s a month into the ad spend. And this simple little ad that you're looking at generated over $250,000 in a 6-month period. And that's a return on ad spend of 16.56. And another important takeaway there, and why I'm showing you the result of this kind of ad, is that you don't always need to limit yourself to one platform. You may be surprised the type of traction you can get by diversifying your platforms and trying new channels. When you're creating your ad campaign, there's one more thing that I absolutely need you to remember, and it's a concept called ad scent. This means that there needs to be congruency along the customer journey between the ad they're seeing and the page that they arrive on. So you want the colors, the fonts, the messaging of the ad to match the colors and fonts and messaging of the landing page that they arrive on. They need to seem congruent, like they're part of the same message. If your ad looks completely different than that landing page that someone lands on, they're going to think that they're in the wrong spot and you're going to lose that customer. So make sure that there's a lot of consistency in the creative that you produce for your ad, as well as the place that the ad arrives at, which is usually the landing page or the product page. Some last thoughts here about your creative. You always want to research what others are doing. You don't need to rack your brain trying to reinvent the wheel in this. Look at what your competitors are doing. Look at what types of ads are getting a lot of traction And you can use that as motivation or inspiration for the ads that you create. And you can brainstorm different ideas for video, graphics, images, visualizations, and GIFs that amplify your big idea. Remember when I was showing you how to create the Facebook ad and there was a row at the end that talks about creative? Get creative. Use different formats. Think about how you would visualize your big ideas with different formats. As I'm sure you can tell, we've ran a lot of ads in our day, and oftentimes the ads that perform the best are simple cell phone videos. And oftentimes it's user-generated content where a customer sends you a testimonial video that they made with an iPhone, and those ads will convert really high. I see a lot of brands getting hung up on trying to overproduce things, and they spend a lot of money on an ad that may or may not even convert. So that's my next takeaway for you, is that you want to test everything. I've also worked with brands that did highly produced videos that converted really well. So it's a good idea to be thinking about multiple formats and testing them against one another. And in the next section, I'm going to talk a little bit more about how you can split test your ads to see which ones are resonating with your audience the most.